This presentation is all about the interesting relationship that we have with our dreams. Recently, I felt that a dream of mine had been lost, crashed and burned and abandoned, and I even started to write some embittered lyrics about it, because in short, the dream was that I was to record with a friend of mine, a good old friend of mine, who I felt I'd lost touch with, and I thought that our working relationship as songsters was over, and that our actual relationship as friends was now coming to an end. And so I wrote some bitter and twisted, sad lyrics, and guess what? That very same day, he called me out of the blue, after a long break, and suggested that we work together on another EP and put some songs together. And it got me thinking about how we carry dreams around with us, and yet we often are too ready to turn our backs on our dreams, and we're too ready to put our dreams away and hide them away from the world. In a way, because we feel guilty about having dreams, perhaps. And so the title of this presentation is about how smouldering dreams can burst back into life. And it made me think about the analogy of fire. You see, fire requires three things to become a fire. It needs fuel, it needs oxygen, and of course it needs heat. And our dreams are a little bit like a latent fire, which with the right treatment and the right technologies, we can get them to burst back into flames. So for example, the fuel for your dream might be the original vision that you had for the dream. It might be the original goals that you set for yourself, and it might be the original ambitions that you felt that you wanted to fulfill. And what is a dream if it isn't an unfulfilled ambition? Let's just take the idea of dreams as things that we can make real, as opposed to fictions that are unattainable. And then we have to ask ourselves, well, in what ways can we make a dream attainable? And of course, the first thing to do is to have a clear idea of the ambition and the vision that you hold for that dream. And the second thing the dream needs, or the fire needs, it needs heat. And the heat, it could be said, is the friction and the latent power that can be stored and accumulated in the fuel by dint of thinking, gathering knowledge, rolling the idea around in your mind in such a way as eventually, it's fit to burst. Somehow or other, you've got to follow that dream. But without constantly revisiting and thinking about that dream and rolling it around in your mind like a pearl, it's very difficult to maintain that dream. But if you do that, if you do keep rolling around the idea and you do keep researching, gathering knowledge and gathering information that's required, you can steadily create latent heat beneath the dream. And the third thing you need to cause a fire to spark is oxygen. And I would liken oxygen to the decisions that you make. The actions and decisions that you make are like the oxygen to the fire. And to extend the analogy, if you've ever seen somebody blow gently onto embers in order to get the embers to burst into flames, in the same way, just by engaging in lots of small, patient decisions, you can create the oxygen you need in order to unsmother the dream and to assist it to burst into flames. So when you think about it, your dream or your smothered ambition can be likened to a fire, which if you add the right elements can be spontaneously burst back into life. If you add the fuel of desire, if you add the heat of your frustrations, and you add the oxygen of your small decisions and actions, you can take something which is latent and you can take it and bring it to a booming, roaring fire. You just have to keep adding the right kinds of fuel, the right amount of oxygen, and maintain the right kind of heat. This is good news in a way, because if you think about it, a dream which is smothered can be something which for years may lay smouldering underneath a lot of repressive and smothering thoughts, lack of action, with a lot of negligence. So my advice here is, if you do have a dream and you do have an ambition or a goal or a vision, then think about how you can throw fuel onto that fire, how much oxygen you can provide to it, and how you can take the frustrations and setbacks you've experienced in order to create the perfect conditions for your dream to bear light and heat. So in my view, your desires can grow and evolve. It may be that you can carry a dream for quite a long time, in fact, and it can smoulder and it can sit there gathering heat under the setbacks and the frustrations and the learnings and the knowledge that you accumulate. And until finally, the resilience that you develop through the small decisions and actions that you take can be just what is required to cause the whole thing to combust. And so I guess a good question to ask is, what kind of skills do we need to build a fire? Just to extend the analogy, well, you need to be able to know how to pile up the materials to build a fire. You need to know where to put the tinder and where to place the match. And you need to know how to coax the embers into full life. And so the skills you require here are the skills of timing, patience, and application. And in the same way, with the skills of timing, patience, and application, you can get your dreams to spontaneously combust. It just takes a little bit of work, really. You just have to learn to be a little bit methodical. So let's take the idea that a dream is not an intangible, ephemeral, spiritual whisper smoke. Let's take the idea that the dream is a technology that can be sparked into life if you use the right strategies and approaches. And let's go from that basis. So coming round full circle almost, you can say that the fuel of your dreams are your desires. And you can say that the heat of your dreams are your frustrations or your knowledge, no matter how hard won. And the oxygen of your dreams is the action that you take. So knowing that you can apply these ideas and apply these strategies means that, in theory, no dream need be left untended. The only question is, do you need the fire? Do you need the warmth in your life? And if you do need the fire and you do need the warmth in your life, there are ways that you can build and supply the right amounts of fuel and the right amount of oxygen to get the thing going. So the question is, do you wanna?